Happy Friday. Another week has come and gone. This is Slice of Life. That's Billy Harner. My name is Keith Rad. This is the Brooklyn Cyclone Show, where we give you our favorite social slice. We celebrate some healthcare heroes, and we talk sports, going at it as hard as we can. Billy, my favorite social slice, I'm going to start this one off. And I want to do this because I want to say it before it gets to be too late in a good way. But Gordon Donovan, who is one of our good friends from the Brooklyn Cyclones, he's a photographer for minor league baseball. He's worked for other news outlets as well. We're living in a historical time, and Gordon has been out in the New York City area on the streets taking photos of what he sees. And it's kind of hard to think about, but Times Square with nobody in it, Central Park with nobody in it, South Street Seaport with nobody in it. Just the most dense city in the area, one of the biggest cities in the world, the home of Wall Street and commerce, just shut down. These photos, I really appreciated them as a history buff because I'm always thinking, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, grandkids, what am I going to tell people about this time? His Instagram account is Gordon Donovan. Look him up. A tremendous array of history we are living in.
Yeah, these photos, I follow Gordon on Instagram and on Twitter as well, and they're just gorgeous. Like it's eerily gorgeous, I guess, is the only way that I can really describe it. When you look at these things, it's places where there's usually thousands of people, some of the most famous places in the world, and all of a sudden they're just completely vacant. There was one of like Grand Central Station where you're looking around and you never really appreciate the beauty of it until it's completely empty like that. So he's doing a tremendous job of sort of being the stenographer, I guess, of these times. And like you said, we're sort of living in the middle of a chapter in a history textbook at some point. And these photos I've seen, and I think at some point I would like to hang somewhere in my home with how beautiful they are. And it's just very moving to see. For my social slice, 3 weeks ago, a 103-year-old woman by the name of Jenny Stena. She's got a silent J in there. I'm going to go with that. I mean, like I've said 1,000 times, the most difficult part of the show is pronouncing names, and you never realize how difficult names are until you have to say ones with just riding blind. So Jenny, we'll just go with Jenny. She tested positive for coronavirus in her nursing home in Massachusetts. She had a low-grade fever and was just overall feeling pretty crummy. So as her condition worsened, she was in contact with loved ones and said her goodbyes. But this isn't sad time, Keith. This is a happy show. So as you can imagine, she recovered. 103-year-old woman recovers from COVID-19. And as her granddaughter describes her, she's a feisty old Polish grandmother. So that hits me right in the heart. And when it was all said and done and she was celebrating overcoming the virus, her first request and only request, an ice cold Bud Light. So what I've learned from this show is if you are incredibly old, you live to be over 100 years old, the secret is apparently in some cases drinking red wine and in others drinking Bud Light. So Kevin Mahoney, our general manager of the Brooklyn Cyclones, I don't know if Bud Heavy still has the same impact, but he may live to be 700 years old.
These stories they continue to baffle me. There's, you hear about what's the best diet to eat. Let's take a look at the people that are 100 years old. What do they eat?
Bacon.
Science hasn't figured it out yet. It's unbelievable. You're absolutely right. Kevin Mahoney will live to be older than Moses at this point because of his beer of choice. So it's just unbelievable. I mean, to think of the strength of a normal person who has a tough time fighting COVID. This woman's 103. How does she's frail. She's an old lady. She's rocking, but like you said, a feisty Polish grandmother. It's amazing. Chicken Parm Heroes. Bill, I'll go right back to you on this one.
Yeah, so it's been a rough few days for baseball fans with the very, very, very public disagreements between the Players Association and ownership as they try to salvage some form of a 2020 baseball season. But yesterday was also a tough day, as there are reports that upwards of 1,000 minor league baseball players may be getting released in the coming days and weeks. So it was a rough day sort of overall. For us, we have relationships with a lot of these guys. We see them right when they get started in their pro careers. So it was a tough day to say goodbye to a bunch of guys in the Mets system, but they're not alone. There's basically every team in professional baseball is getting rid of minor leaguers, as it's looking less and less likely that there may be a season this year. So while there are all sorts of debates on social media on both sides and who's wrong, who's being greedy, and who's being selfish, I wanted to point out someone last night that I saw was David Price on the Los Angeles Dodgers, who has been an All-Star and a Cy Young Award winner and has made $200 million in his career playing baseball. He is giving $1,000 to every Los Angeles Dodgers minor league player for the month of June. So I thought that was sort of worthy of some praise, as you're going to hear a lot of stuff about people being selfish and players being selfish. It was good to see somebody who's using his money and doing it the right way and giving it back to people. And this is a guy that has not played a game for the Dodgers yet. He was just traded from the Red Sox along with Mookie Betts over to LA. So he is going to instantly be the most popular guy in the clubhouse when spring training resumes in any way, shape, or form. The minor leaguers will appreciate that very, very much. And, you know, they've been getting $400. Most guys have been getting $400 stipend from their major league teams, but some of them are starting to dry up. So good job by David to really reach into his own pockets and then do some good.
Yeah, I think that out of anything, if you take away the billionaires versus millionaires thing, for David Price, he's kind of selling or sharing the dream that all these guys have. Like, it's, you know, you make a AAA salary, which could be upwards of $10,000 a year or $10,000 a month, something like that, which is really nice. But once you crack the bigs and you get that major league minimum, it becomes a bit of a different world. And David Price has cracked into the upper echelon of the hundreds of millions of dollars. So if anything, if I'm a Dodgers player and I'm thinking, man, I might not have a season this year, I might lose. You lose faith a little bit. Everybody does. They're sitting home. They're lacking in the energy to have, you know, to do their normal job, whether you're an athlete or not. And this kind of, I guess, reignites the fire a little bit for some of those minor league players to still aspire to that dream. And I know a lot of Yankee fan friends who are always grateful to David Price because he gives out a little bit more than money. Usually fastballs about belt high when he plays the Yankees, but we'll cut that part out of it when I post it on social media later.
I mean, he's won a World Series in the last decade. I don't know if a lot of Yankees can say that. Oh, let's go.
Fair enough. Billy, always down the middle. For my chicken parm hero, the FDNY tweeted a video out of a parade of EMT ambulances from across the country leaving New York's Fort Totten yesterday. The partnership with FEMA allowed 250 ambulances, 500 EMTs and paramedics into the city. They were all thanked in this parade after fielding 31,000 medical emergencies. You've probably seen tweets or heard about it that COVID-19 has been the busiest period in the history of EMTs in New York City of 911 calls. This city on a daily basis gets anywhere between 4,000, 4,100 calls a day. During the peak of this virus, you're looking at 6,500 calls, which is insane. So a big thank you to everybody who came from out of state. It's good to see you go. It means we're getting better, but we couldn't have done it without you. And I'm sitting here in my little apartment. We do this show every day. We do our best to kind of say thank you to these people, but they're the ones out there fielding these calls. I mean, it's crazy. I can't even think about the 911 operators or the EMTs jumping in this way, jumping and going that way. And a lot of these people from out of state who don't know the area, don't know what they're about to see, where they're about to go, just kind of putting their head down and working to save some lives. So an FDNY, thank you, and a thank you from us too at Slice of Life.
Yeah, for sure. The stories you hear every day of people coming from out of state and coming here to sort of riding in on their white horse to save the day is unbelievable. And just the volume that they've been coming in from all over the country, all over the world, really, to be helpful here in New York is something that I think all of us very much appreciate and hope to be able to pay it forward in some way down the road.
Sports, they do exist, has become the little tagline at the end of our show every day. I'll start first. Carmelo Anthony spoke for Jordan Brand. I didn't even know this was a thing until this week. But Carmelo announced full scholarships for 32 Jordan Brand Wings scholars. So 32 scholarships were given out to each student who will receive a 4-year scholarship to the university of their choice or any post-secondary education program. Kids from all around the country, Portland, Chicago, Charlotte, New York City. A lot of these folks are folks who grew up without a second parent or from low income neighborhoods who, it's tough to get on the level playing field. I mean, I had two parents that worked. I was able to go to college, but imagine one of them didn't. I don't know what the future could have held. So not easy to think about for some of us, but 32 small little miracles. So thank you to Jordan Brand. Of course, Carmelo was kind of came out of Baltimore, was a tough area. He grew up in a one-parent household, and he achieved his dream. So he's just kind of sharing this as the announcer of Jordan Brand.
Yeah, it's great to see Jordan Brand and how community-minded they are with how much support they get from everyone, really, with buying their $200 shoes. So to really pay it forward with a Scott's Tots kind of thing here with MJ and Jordan Brand.
It was funny. My fiance and I are binging Office. We've never done that before, and we literally just watched Scott's Tots. And this show, if anything, makes me cringe more than I think I've ever cringed in my life. And that episode was the most cringeworthy I have seen just yet of Scott's Tots. If you haven't watched it, watch it, and it's like nails on a chalkboard for 25 minutes.
I can't watch it. I fast forward. I skip that episode because it just gives me the absolute chills every time I watch it. I'm just so that. Okay. So for my sports story, innovation, Keith. I love it. So we've seen robots watch games. We've seen stuffed animals in the stands. We've had cardboard cutouts watching from the stands. Last night, a soccer club in Denmark, AGF Aarhus, I don't know. That's what I'm going to go with. They played a match in front of a Zoom crowd, which is crazy to see. It was the first of its kind event where they put TV screens around the sidelines and the stands, each filled with about 20 to 25 people watching from their homes. Fans were able to reserve seats in specific sections. There were 22 sections that were available. And when all was said and done, there were about 556 different Zoom meetings going on that were displayed on a 131-foot video board. And those who stuck around long enough, stuck around to the end, saw the home team score an equalizer in the 92nd minute to come away with a 1-1 tie. So the pictures of this are nuts. And just seeing, like, there were some places where it was families sitting all together around a computer. So you saw 6 or 7 people watching the game. There were people that were shaking their heads and ripping their hair out during tense moments. And they're just like, they had in this, people, everybody's done at a Zoom meeting. So they would highlight certain people. And their reactions would be like taking over a whole board. So you would be impossible to meet. So at one point there was like a missed shot or a guy got called offside, something like that. And there was a 12-year-old kid that was just sitting like this. And it was just displayed everywhere. So the players themselves see the reactions and were laughing about it as well. So something different, something new. And I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I like this way more than seeing the cardboard cutouts and the stuffed animals and whatever else has been done. It's actual faces, it's actual reactions. They had audio, so people are cheering and yelling. They had fans from both teams. So it was interesting to see. I watched some clips of it, and I'm on board for it. If that's what has to come here, make the lemonade out of your lemons, I think this would probably be the way to go.
Yeah, and I have heard of, like, the NBA has been messing around with some virtual reality game experiences. I mean, if you think about putting a kind of a 360 camera right on center court and just sharing that to whomever at home that can't be at the game. But obviously, hopefully we can get to having people in the stands. But for those who are not in the stands, this is something that could be, if it's an experience that you really feel like you're at the game, kind of awesome when you're at home. I mean, it is a community. People say, sports, are they really that important? They are so important to just people's livelihood and to keep everybody's kind of spirits high and get that community feeling back. I think it's super duper important. And I mean, hey, listen, go to Coney Island and put me in the third row and set up the laptop and take a lead off first base, and I'll cheer you on, Bill, whatever I have to do. I love this idea. It's very cool. And I know that people will make it better and better as we go along.
Yeah, I think just the basic idea of it works regardless of if there's fans or not in the stands.
Right,
I mean,
right.
You're going to do this, for games everywhere, just to give people the experience of being in the ballpark. It's different from watching it on TV. It's different from watching a stream online. It's, you're sort of in the middle of it. So it's not a 3D VR experience that is capable with technology and stuff. But this is sort of a distant second. But I think it's a pretty cool idea going forward, regardless of if there's fans or not.
Well, Bill, a good week of shows. Next week, I'm thinking maybe virtual reality. I'd like to feel like I'm swimming in that pool behind you. I'm just going to float that out there, no pun intended. That I'd like to maybe see you film the show from there, just kind of bobbing around. But a boy can dream, so we'll see. We'll see you on Monday, hopefully with a float on.
Yeah, another weekend working on that pool. I'll be in there, no problem.